Thanks everyone for tuning in to my conversation with Meerkat Ultra. Meerkat Ultra is an MFA graduate of David Lynch's school, making videos about Joshi wrestling and anything Meerkat wants. Meerkat Ultra is the creator of well over 200 videos on YouTube, and his work has garnered thousands of subscribers. Meerkat, how's your day going so far?
Hello, hello. My day is going pretty well, pretty well. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, thanks very much for being here, man. I discovered you through coverage of World Wonder Ring Stardom, which you've made a number of videos regarding. You talked about the characters in Stardom, the storylines in Stardom, and a lot of the goofiness and the individuality that makes Stardom what it is. So I thought that would be a good place for us to start. And I'm just curious, why did you decide to do that? What is it about Stardom in particular that motivated you to get going with your coverage?
Oh, well, Stardom, in my opinion, when they're absolutely on it, are just the best in the world. Absolutely, they're still the best quality women's promotion in the world, and when they're absolutely on it, just the absolute best in my opinion. Especially because I like the particular way they tell the stories, and I very much like the post match stuff that happens afterwards, where they're just sitting in the ring together and crying and showing emotions. I just love that. I think it's so good, and when it's translated, it's even better because you can know what's going on. But even without the translations, it still comes across clear to me. Why I started though is not because I've always wanted to cover wrestling in some sort of fashion, but I had some like significant like mental break around the Christmas of 2021, I think. And then I just decided to make content because I just needed to do something instead of just being depressed. So I decided just to, well, I'm watching Stardom and I already have these thoughts about Stardom. So let me just do it. I was previously doing it on my Instagram stories. I was just talking about Stardom in almost the same way, but just story mode. And I decided to adapt that and I just kept going. I don't know. I just kept having these ideas.
I actually have a quote from one of your videos. Now, this is going back a ways. So if it is no longer relevant, if it does not apply, forgive me in advance. This quote comes from the finale of the five-star Grand Prix in 2022, a really lengthy and impressive video that you made. And you were referencing a match involving Mina Shirakawa, in which you said, "Good job, Mina Shirakawa. I owe my entire channel to you." I'm curious, was she someone that inspired you to get started making these videos ahead of time, or was that statement sort of after you'd already gotten started and realized maybe that she was someone you wanted to kind of focus on and talk about?
Yeah, I don't even remember that honestly. A lot of my old videos, yeah, I just forget. Like it just in the past, especially the 5 star. I think it's a blur. But it's true though. I mean, because when I started the channel, one of the Mina videos, it's still my highest views is the one I wanted to make. So I wanted to just make something really unhinged about Mina, and she inspired me to do that with that character, the Bloody Angel character, that crazy character that she does. And then she started doing that feud of Tekla and threatening to smash her in her boobs, basically. And I thought that was funny and unique. And no professional wrestling company has a feud centered around that. So I was like, okay, let me talk about that too, do a sequel. And then she became the Bloody Angel again. And it's like, well, how can I not talk about Mina Shirakawa? So it's slowly but surely, like Mina Shirakawa's antics just became more important than a lot of the other things Stardom was doing, and it became very much like a style of video to cover. It was a very specific way I would cover a Mina Shirakawa video versus other people. And it was fun to cover her arc as just being this girl who's this woman who's obsessed with her looks, using her looks to spread her character, to just being outside crazy, and then having different modes of crazy, to just getting serious and becoming a serious wrestler like she is now. She's very much a really good serious wrestler, and I very much enjoy the arc of covering Mina Shirakawa. Not so much anymore. I would say Saki Kashima is the main character of the channel, but that's just how that works. But initially, yeah, Mina Shirakawa was the muse for the channel, and I owe basically the entirety of my channel to Mina Shirakawa for sure. She still has the most views, and no one's gonna catch up to her. So
As I kind of have looked at some of your stuff chronologically, I feel like, and I remember when this was happening at the time, I feel like you really took a leap and wanted to try something out when you decided to actually cover the entirety of the five-star GP, firstly in 2022. I really, really am curious about your decision to do that and what the experience was. Did you think you were going to be able to pull it off? Um, what can you tell me about that?
Yeah, sure, sure. No, it was on my mind because I wanted to. I was gonna watch it anyways. But I like watching. It's a tangent, but I like watching like Twitch streamers and Dark Souls streamers and things like that. And I was watching a lot of challenge runs at the time. People just speed running the game, and I thought, can I do like a content challenge run? Let me cover the entirety of the five star, all of it, every single bit of it, every day. And that was just a challenge. I wanted to see if I could just do it, type of deal. I didn't think I can. I didn't think I was going to be as hardcore as I was because looking back on it, I don't know how I did it. Still, like it was pretty insane. And I think at one point I was releasing one a day, and I would record it. I would write my thoughts as I was watching the match, and then I'll just go and record it basically, and then not even edit it too much. It's my like rawest form of content you'll get from me, which made it weird and hard to watch again. Like I go back to watch it, I just can't do it because of that. But yeah, it was very fun. And it's definitely where the majority, I'd say a lot of people discovered me because I was covering the five star, and I think I was the only one doing it consistently in that fashion. So I think by default, a lot of people just caught on to what I was doing. So it helped a lot in terms of growing an audience. So I'm grateful I did it for sure. Before I even started trying to do what I wanted to do. I wanted to see what was out there, and a lot of it is just informational. Basically, it's all information, almost documentary, which is fine. It's great. One of the first ones I saw was Operation Rainfall. I think is failed idol for Maki Ito video, and that was the first time I ever saw that people made video essays for wrestling. I didn't know people did that actually. So I saw that. I saw people were actually doing stuff like that. And then I go and I see what Karen watches wrestling is doing. I hope she's well wherever she's at. And I see what everyone else is doing. And it's like, okay, they're doing this type of style. Nobody's doing video game donkey, but Shoshi. Nobody's doing that. So it's like, well, I know I can do that because I like comedy. I know I can write stuff like that. So it's like, let me just have fun with this stuff and be exaggerated about how much I love it and stuff. Cause I do love it, but it's all exaggerated, of course. But and just go for it. And then somewhere down the line, once people started to pay attention and I realized I can make longer than 5 minutes of video and people would watch it, I realized, oh, I can do more. I can take my time, more pacing, more of the film stuff, like I made that Tam Nakano being John Malkovich crossover video that surprised me that people liked, and I thought that was a very unique video. I thought, well, if I can do that, I can do crazier stuff and people will pay attention, I think. Yeah, so somewhere down the line, I started adding more and more of that. And also for the voice itself, I started utilizing like I'm pitching to a film executive type of story. So if I'm pitching a story, it's like, oh, I'm pitching this to a film executive, like I'm pitching a film. This is how I'll pitch this character with added flair because it's YouTube type of deal. So that's how I kind of just took the whole thing basically. And now lately, the voice has evolved into I don't even know how it evolved into what it is because I listen to old me. It's not the same, it doesn't sound the same, and it's not just a microphone. I just how I deliver it. I don't know.
So I'd really like to get an insight to your, I guess your interest in comedy, because you did mention that a large degree of what you do has this comedic styling to it, and you tend to cover a lot of sort of the funniest things that we see inside of a wrestling ring, and it creates even your musical choices and your editing, the quick snappy editing that can get utilized. It all lends itself towards a sort of almost a pseudo genre in that way. Was that something that just happened? Did you put a lot of thought into doing it that way? Did you think that was the best sort of inroad to getting started? And like you said, appealing to an audience on YouTube specifically?
Well, yes and no, because I knew that nobody was doing more of that serious style, and also whenever I tried writing serious stuff back then, it just sounded cringe. I couldn't do it. I couldn't take myself too seriously, and that's also just in general my outlook on life, anyway. So it's just like it's hard for me to take it that seriously to begin with. But I do naturally write comedic stuff though, even in my like film work and stuff like that. Not the ones I've made. The ones I've made have just been intense, surreal art films, but things that I write are very much just comedies, I think. So I think I do just naturally like lend myself to comedy. And then in regards to wrestling, it was just funny. I think so like a lot of the Stardom things were just like this is just content. Like all the stuff that Koguma does, it's just content. It's just hilarious, you know. And also everyone always treats Stardom as this, of course, super serious promotion, and then I see them playing like paper swords and throwing and having fighting in bouncy castles and Saki costumes playing a coward, you know. So I just wanted to point out more of the hilarious aspects of that. And then now lately, TJPW is someone in my life, and that whole place is just content galore. I just love it so much. So, yeah, and all these other just wrestling in general just tends to have a lot more comedic moments that people usually looked down upon anyways. And I think comedy has a place and a real strong place in wrestling as well. A lot of your best comedic workers are actual good workers in a technical sense too. You can't just be a comedian. You have to be a good wrestler to be a good comedian in the ring as well. So like Kaguma can probably go out there and have a really good technical match if she wanted to, but it'd be funnier if she just did bear things, you know, stuff like that. Yeah, I think I like to cover more.
One thing I've noticed is that you've utilized a sort of an evolving and ongoing soundtrack. You have almost theme songs for specific characters in your stories sometimes, or if you're revisiting a certain storyline, maybe music we've heard before will echo into the future iteration. I'm curious how you feel about the presence of music. It's such an important role to play in most media, and also informing things like emotion and feeling. Are you a very musical person in general? Would you say, did that predate filmmaking stuff? Did it come along with it? Where did that sort of originate?
100% music guy. What I'm glad you noticed that because I do that purposely, just like to have theme songs for people, try to come up with something for each of them. I try to like be specific and really think about it. Um, so I'm glad you recognized that because I try to legitimately do that. But music, yeah, 100%. Like movies and music, I hold on a higher standard than wrestling. So I did music in high school. I did garage band music, stuff like that. I had nothing that went anywhere, but I just like it. You know, I used to just play a lot of noise rock and stuff like that. It was just fun stuff to do. And in general, I like film scores. It's what I listen to when I'm writing and stuff like that, and classical music too. So I also, since I treat my content less as information and more immersion, music is just like vital. I need music basically. So I try to be very specific and it usually works out. It's very amazing how just picking a piece of music and overlaying over my vocals, I have to do very little to myself and it fits. So that's something that's been like something that's been very rewarding actually because it feels like it's meant to be. This piece of music's meant to be like using Beethoven's Seventh for Mina was always the case, and just it just always fits every single time I use it. So things like that, you know, I think are amazing. All the near automata music that I use for the best wrestlers. They're the only ones who get it. I'm very specific about the near songs I use too, and it always just works. It always works. So
That reminds me, if we could get kind of specific on an individual, I guess, pieces that you've done. And forgive me, I don't recall the exact title. I have kind of a watch list, but you put out a very unique video that detailed the All-Star Grand Queendom match between Tam Nakano and Julia. And I think the title was something along the lines of Tam versus Julia was a beautiful song. And it was such an eclectic and distinct presentation. You allowed visuals of different characters over time and different storylines that we have followed drift in and out of frame and kind of cross fade into each other. And you did the same thing with music. And I believe that's one of your premiere showcases of the near scores that you just referenced. That stood out amongst everything you've done as being really well executed, but also sort of experimental and sort of an out of the box way to communicate what was going on. and it has less narration than a lot of the stuff you've done. You really solely relied on the editing and the collage. It was like swimming in the world of Stardom. So, what was that like making that, and what do you think of it looking back?
Oh yeah, I just it was one of those things where like I get tired of myself talking. Obviously, I do it a lot, so I just get tired of it. I have to hear myself all the time. It's like, and this match I felt like spoke on its own. I felt this match spoke on its own. There we go. And then so I just wanted to just highlight that. And I don't know. I don't remember how it started. I just remember that I got inspired by what was it? The I don't remember the proper name, but it's the origin story of Tolkien's universe in the Silmarillion. So I just got inspired by that. It's all music basically. It's the chorus of like all the creations. I don't remember the names of. God, I don't remember any of the names now. It's all the choruses of all the songs going together. But then one of them decides to make their own song and changes the rhythm of the entirety of the one song, and it becomes many dissonant songs together. And then through that dissonance, he got punished that way. It was like Tolkien's biblical parable, basically. Even though he says none of his work is metaphoric, he's lying. It totally is. But yeah, I got inspired by that, but I don't remember why I decided to make it that way. Honestly, I do remember making it and thinking it was just going to be like received as a very arty, pretentious piece of thing. I don't know. I try not to try not to take myself too seriously or try to make myself seem like I'm like a big artist or anything like that. You know, I'm no one in particular. I just make things. You know, but even now, like I've gone this recent arc of making the things that I want to make now and trying to letting go of a wider audience and letting go of the channel in a way that I feel needs to grow or feel like the way most YouTubers look at their YouTube that they need it to rely on and looking at it as more back the way it used to be where I just make things that I make and I'm glad people watch it. But looking back at that video, I wasn't in that mindset. So the fact that I made it is pretty freaking weird, I think. It was just the artist need in me to make, I guess. I don't know. It's one of my favorite videos. It's one of the best ones I've done for sure, though. It's just like it did everything that I wanted it to do. Yeah. The music that you mentioned that I overlaid, I did that first. That's the first thing I did, and then I made the video. So I wanted to make sure that could work, and it did. It happened to work. So yeah, I'm glad you like it. A lot of people seem to like it too, and I'm glad I could do something different too, because I know that's very different than what you'd see from like anything else, really. But yeah, I'm glad you liked it. Yeah, I really am. It was like 800 words total or something like that, and I thought, oh, this is cool. Let me see if I can do this or something.
You seem to be very editing heavy and very sort of like adept with edits. Do you find that that's something you really enjoy doing? Is that something you've always enjoyed in the filmmaking process? And how has your process changed? Have you been able to make it, I guess, like more time efficient or more just generally sort of expedited? Because that can be a very sort of time intensive and a lot of work.
Yeah, that's a good question. I never get to talk about. I never get to talk about this. But yeah, editing is fantastic. I love editing. It's my favorite part of the filmmaking process. That and the sound design process that I learned at the university. That was one of my favorite things is learning sound design and things like that. But it's 100% my favorite aspect of it, like using music and stuff like that. When I was in the David Lynch school, I learned one of his editors for Twin Peaks, who also did the Attack of the Clones series for Cartoon Network way back in the day. His name was Dwayne Dunham, and he taught us that he edits with no sound. He just edits to visual. I thought that was interesting, but so I kind of do that, but I use music still, so it just makes it easier to edit. So lately now, in regards to expediting, I just make the skeleton first of the audio. I just edit my dialogue, my narration as quickly as possible because that's the most tedious part of making videos for me is editing myself. Um, and then I lay the music underneath it, so it's done. The audio skeleton is done. I just gotta just drop it in and just edit basically, and that's how I can expedite really quickly now by just doing it that way. Sometimes I'm editing the voice and I'm adding the music with it too, and just as I go along, and it just kind of just fills it in. But that's my favorite part. It's just that in general, editing's always been fun. It's just yeah, it's just something I've always noticed in things, and just it's just cool. I think it's like half the reason. It's a majority of the reason why I sound any good at all. Like anyone listens to this, you probably do your best to edit it, but I come off rambling and frenetic. I just that's how I talk. But when I have a script in front of me and be focused, yeah, I can make myself sound really, really good and really, really structured and well spoken. I'd say so.
Yeah, I figured that had to have been the case in terms of your appreciation and enjoyment of editing because your output is just it's so prolific at this point, and you have a sort of a schedule now where you're releasing things, multiple videos across the span of a week usually. So I just thought to myself, there's got to be some kind of process in place that's making this work really well. So I definitely congratulate you on that. Hopefully we can all get to that place at some point in our lives with editing. So on that topic, I would really be curious to know, you mentioned a couple, we've talked about a couple specific videos, and you mentioned one that was among your favorites. But is there a particular specific edit or sequence or scene that you've captured that you feel is like a Meerkat Ultra staple in the canon, or something that you look back at and you're really happy with how it came out? And does anything pop into your mind?
Um, well, my best edit will probably be by the time this comes out, I'll be out already. But I did a Maki Ito video. I'm releasing it tomorrow, but it'll be out by the time this comes out. That edit's insane. I made it for a friend, and so since I made it for a friend, I decided I can just be as crazy and psychedelic as possible. So it just goes nuts. It's nuts. So as a just an edit, that's probably that one. But in my content, I just recently rewatched my Ram Kai Chow video. I'm really proud of that one. That one came out really well, I think. There's just a lot of little sequences in there that I appreciate. Um, I'm sure there's something in my 5 star that I really like, but I cannot remember honestly. There's a lot of little things I remember that are hard to pinpoint. Like like this Tam like the Tam lore video with Megasis in there. Like the first half of that video is so ridiculous, but I really, really like it too. Like little things like that, like little sequences that I think I always did really well. But yeah, it's hard to remember at this point.
If I may bring up something quite old at this point, you did a three-part Kill Tamu series, and in rewatching that series, there was something that definitely stood out for me. The final installment, you took a moment to step back from the microphone and you allowed this scene, which was a post match scene after Natsupoi had turned on Julia and was being taken into Cosmic Angels for the first time. You allowed that to play to a soundtrack with no other audio, and you use that as a demonstration of the power of the performances that these wrestlers are capable of, and how it stands on its own, almost as its own piece of cinema or performance art. And I thought that was a very effective and novel thing to do, to just let the work of World Wonder Ring Stardom stand on its own. And you were absolutely right in everything that you said about it. It made you feel something. You couldn't believe the amount of drama that people like Natsupoi are able to convey with just a little bit of emotion. No dialogue, none of the sort of bells and whistles that we see in the work of film and television. And that really was cool because it was more of a minimalist approach to the content you create. And sometimes that's the perfect thing to do, I think.
Yeah, thank you. To your point, yeah, and that's just basically why I watch wrestling. Actually, it's stuff like that, moments like that. Like when I think, even now, I'm trying to think back of those three Tam not supporter matches, those three matches. I can remember some of the spots, but I don't remember a lot of the big wrestling spots, especially the ones that probably hurt them the most. I just remember their faces way more, and that's going to be what lasts longer is those moments more so than the moves. And that's something in general. That's the philosophy of my channel. You know, pro wrestlers are the best actors in the world. They are. They absolutely are, just by default. Even not all of them. Some of them are just terrible, but some of them are just unbelievably phenomenal. And then Stardom, even today, has still some of the best out there. I think, and that's one of the major reasons why I like it. Joshi wrestling is in particular as well, because they just get it. They absolutely just get the purity of it. And those videos were really fun to do. I think they're a little harder for me to watch now because obviously I think any artist does this. You watch old work, it's like, oh, I could have done that way better. Oh, why did I say that? Type of deal. So that's the case for those three videos, but for it's a very common compliment that people just like those videos. I still get people commenting on that and just saying, "Oh, I really loved what you did at the Kill Tammy videos." Like, thank you, I appreciate that. They were very rewarding to do, I would say. But yeah, thank you. Sometimes I forget that I made those, so thank you.
So, but on the, you mentioned performance, and you have a number of videos talking about wrestlers being the best actors in the world. Um, Before we kind of move on outside of Stardom, we have a little bit of time left. It looks like. Uh, can you talk about some of the actors in Stardom that stand out to you in particular? You've mentioned Mina, you've mentioned Saki Kashima as probably the best comedic character in the company, and I think Natsupoi kind of probably belongs in this discussion. She has a theatrical background as far as I know, and it completely shows anytime she's around. So, does anybody else belong in this conversation? Do you think?
Yeah, Stardom has a lot of them. I think Soriano. I mean, she also has a theatric background, of course, but Soriano is just does so little, but says so much because she can. And when you have like a stoic face, you just gotta change it just a little bit, and it goes a long way. Sherry as well surprised me. When I first started the channel, I think I was a little bit down on her, but I was absolutely wrong on that, and I'll take that L because Sherry is S tier, amazing, phenomenal, not just as a wrestler, but like when she needs to get into it, her faces and expressions, she's amazing. Yeah. But yeah, Mayu is absolutely the best, of course. I can talk about her endlessly. Of course, and so many others, of course. But Mayu, for me, it will always be the top because just the little thing, this little thing she does always it goes a long way. Especially when they're like, for me, I like watching wrestlers when they're in two positions. When they're in submissions, I think it's really interesting because they have their chance to really sell, if you will, and show off what they're doing. And some wrestlers are just doing the standard pain face and maybe reach for the ropes and slowly be dramatic and stuff like that. But Mayu will flail around. She will throw her body into it. She'll let her body like just die and all the blood leave her, it seems like. And she'll just like flop basically, and she'll really just sell what she's doing to a wider audience way in the back, basically. If you're someone way in the back and you can't see their face, you can see Mayu's flailing body and you get it, basically. But some wrestlers don't necessarily always do that. I think it's interesting. And then another position I like seeing people in is, and it's a bit weird, but I like seeing my favorite characters lose sometimes because you get to really see what they're about. You get to see them at their bottom and stuff like that. Like when Mina lost the white belt, as terrible as it was, and as bad as that was, honestly, that shouldn't have happened, I think. But anyways, either way though, you got to see an amazing performance from her as she like was trying to grab the belt away from Rossi before it left her. Things like that just go a long way. I think she's phenomenal. But there's so many, honestly. It's hard to really put it down on something. But I would say Ano for sure is phenomenal, and so is oh man, yeah, yeah, I can go on all day. Julia is great. Suzu Suzuki is great. Suzu Suzuki had my favorite performance of 2022 against Julia, things like that. It's just, yeah, I can talk all day about that.
Yeah, it's a very sort of telling aspect of the Stardom roster is there's just this abundance of riches with sheer talent, and it's like a deep level of talent across a number of different spectrums that so many people there are capable of and able to showcase. And it's almost like the thing that is the problem is that there sometimes isn't enough space or room or time for all of them to be able to shine like maybe we would hope. So I think we could definitely just talk for an entire podcast just about each individual person and what they bring to the table. And we probably would still run out of time. So I totally agree with that. Outside of Stardom and even wrestling, if we could just sort of zoom out to maybe filmmaking or artistry, because you've made videos that either reference filmmakers or reference other creators. I think one of your most recent videos had nothing to do with wrestling at all. Do you have just over the course of your life or your creative life? Do you have any favorite filmmakers or pieces of art or something that you think has kind of inspired you?
Yeah, my absolute favorite artist is Omar Rodriguez Lopez with the Mars Volta. That's probably something nobody knows because I never get to talk about the Mars Volta. Yeah, because they're not Japanese, so I never get to talk about like anything other than that sometimes, you know. But he's my absolute favorite, absolutely. And he also does movies too, and other things. I thought like he's always filming things and taking photos, and he just makes a ton of. He's very prolific on his music side, on just his solo work, and I have like a ton of his like just single albums that he has are just phenomenal. So he always was my inspiration. I used to just listen to interviews of him, and just the way he talks was just yeah. So I'm a big fan of him. I'm a big fan of him. Filmmakers I like Darren Aronofsky. He did like Requiem for a Dream, The Fountain, Black Swan, Mother. I've taken a lot of the reason why I cut a lot probably can be directed back to him because he cuts a lot too. But it's just a style I think. And then I think Donkey is my biggest one because in regards to YouTube because like a lot of my videos can be seen as Donkey stealing from Donkey and trying to do what he's doing, but I cannot because he's the goat. But yeah, he's just yeah. Those are my favorites. I think in regards to artistries and stuff. There's more, of course, but
Of course,
those come to
there's
my
always
head.
more. Yeah, and there's always new ones or something you didn't notice about old ones, and
In
it's just a
fact,
constant sort of revolving door.
I would be like remiss if I didn't mention David Lynch. Of course, I forgot. I only went to his school, and you can honestly see it sometimes. Like that's why I fade so much. Anytime you see me fading, I got it from David Lynch. You know, that's what he does. He does a lot of these fades. So, but like layered, these crossover, layered over fades and stuff. Yeah, that's 100% him. So yeah.
That seems like a good place for us to start talking about your evolution and where you are now, and where you think some of these wrestling organizations where they are at, and what you're liking about viewing wrestling in the year 2024. So, as you mentioned, there's obviously, like any artist will have an evolution and different phases perhaps that they go through. And it does seem, and I believe you mentioned this to me, that you have gravitated a little bit more away from purely Stardom stuff, and even in your viewing habits or preferences, you've gravitated more. From what I've seen on your channel, there's more coverage of TJPW and Gato Move and Actress Girls, and so firstly, because Stardom is perhaps the most interesting for me to talk about. Where do you feel that they are at currently, and is the reason that you've sort of moved on towards covering other companies? Does it have something to do with, the year they had last year? We had a lot of, what we'll say, a lot of storylines that dissipated. Mina Shirakawa's storyline, even before the wave of injuries, her booking, it seemed very confused to me personally, and the injuries certainly didn't help, and it took a lot of pieces off of the board, and it ended up in somewhat of a jumbled mess, depending on how you look at things. Um, so, if you don't mind, could you give me your assessment of what has happened with Stardom and where you think they are currently?
Definitely. No, I think it's basically like a little bit what you said. A lot of the storyline decisions were a bit weird, and because I was covering it, I don't like to be too negative. I try to just maybe see it from their point of view and offer a different spin. But in the end, I just didn't agree with my own content. So I gotta say, like a lot of it was just like a little weird. A lot of storylines didn't go as good as I know they can do. But the injuries definitely did a lot. I would say it made me realize that their style wasn't necessary for every show that they do. They go to a house show and they're just going hard, and it's like you guys don't need to do that. Just have fun. You used to do that when Anagi was there. You just have fun at a house show. You don't need to take a German suplex every night, and things like that started getting to me. It started being like not fun to watch, knowing that they're killing themselves. And it's not just, and that always sounds weird because whenever I see people talk about that, I think, oh, God, you're just being weird. Let them do what they want. But it just stopped being as fun for me, I would say. And then the other promotions started coming in and started just being just pure fun for me. Like, because Choco Pro was always my favorite for a good while, I would say, even before the Stardom's like down. Even before the Stardom decline for me started, Gotham Move is just in general my favorite. They give me the most genuine joy. They're the only show that I watch from beginning to end, like in any wrestling, like at all. So that's what I like about them. But Stardom sort of declined in that sort of fashion. So I just stopped watching full shows of them because it just stopped being interesting. It started being background material. Like I don't like multi tag matches anyway, so they're just boring to me. I think unless like TJPW does some multi tag matches for some odd reason, they know how to do it. So maybe it's just a Bushy Road philosophy that I'm disagreeing with because a lot of New Japan I don't like watching. So it could just be a parallel between the two companies maybe. But yeah, it might just be that, and it could just be like certain people not being there. Like when Tam got injured, I was like, oh, Saki got injured for a little bit. I was like, oh, things like that, and just it just depresses you a little bit. I just didn't really want to watch it, type of deal. I still, of course, love them. I think that when they're on focus and on brand and doing perfect shows, they're absolutely phenomenal. And they're definitely on their way back too. It's not like they're doing anything bad. You got Micah champion, she's phenomenal. Gauze belt right now belonging to Aphrodite. Great team, of course. And Saki Kashima and Shuri are still doing the best storyline in Stardom right now. So I mean, so it's still good stuff. It's still good stuff. It's just other promotions caught my eye because there's more. I think there's more freedom to what they're doing. I think this is more. It just seems more independent. It seems more punk rock. I think, and I just kind of like more attracted to the artistry of that more. I think I don't know if I can give a artsy answer. That's probably it. I think this is more freedom and more independence and more outside the box thinking to my sensibilities than just straight wrestling match. We're gonna go hard. Who has the higher lion spirit? Who's the tougher fighter? Type of fighting. I think. I don't know.
It sounds like that sort of freedom, that level of open artistry, it kind of mirrors where you're at currently, where you seem to be less sort of and I'm not saying you were this before, but less uptight about what to make and how to make it, and you're more sort of trying to cultivate just the spontaneity and the fun of being able to do just about anything you want to do. So it seems like maybe that is almost reflected in what your preference is as a viewer right now.
Yeah, honestly, that's pretty spot on. I mean, I didn't think about that, but yeah, that's right. I can agree with that. I think it does fit my sensibilities to just not cover Stardom as much, especially Stardom recaps. That to me is unfulfilling, easy content. I think, and I could just go about and just cover every major Stardom title match and make some jokes in between and throw some cool music and call it a day. But it's not interesting to me anymore to do that, and it's not good content either. I don't think. I'm just making highlights and yelling over it. I don't know why people watch it, but it's all it is. Like the music videos you see on highlights on Twitter or like YouTube. I'm doing that. But I'm yelling over it, the exact same thing that you've seen, and then I throw some memes. So I don't know. I got tired of it, but yeah, I don't know. That's just where I was making it. I try not to take myself too seriously, but every time I talk about my content, it's always so serious.
I feel like I have that problem too. So at least there's two of us. That's something. So you mentioned not wanting to be too negative. So if we could, as we're winding down, maybe get a little more positive about things, specifically with Stardom. If you could tell me, if there's something comes to mind, maybe one of your favorite things that happened in 2023 from them, and if there is something that comes to mind for this year that you are looking forward to, or you think they will be capable of doing extremely well, is there something sort of recent past and near or distant future that really kind of interests you with Stardom specifically?
In terms of the past, I don't know honestly what they like because it's hard for me to think at the moment. Other than Saki Kashima joining God's Eye just for content's sake, that's just pure entertainment, and for character's sake, that's all I can really think about. Just not too much really happened. Yeah, I mean, I love that Mina Shirakawa when she won the white belt. It was a very big moment, very emotional moment. So I do remember that a lot. And when Tam won too, I thought that was fitting. I like that. Yeah, I don't know. It's hard to really pinpoint an exact moment, but I am really looking forward to I would say just more oh man, that's hard too, honestly, because like so much is happening with Stardom. You know, Julia's leaving, so it's hard to pinpoint what's gonna happen. Tam's gonna come back, and who knows what they're gonna do with her. I'm looking forward to Soriano's white belt reign for sure. I hope it lasts a good amount. I hope we have some really good title matches. I need to catch up on some things, honestly, with her in regards to her title matches. But I'm looking forward to Soriano versus Starlight Kid. I think that's going to be a phenomenal match. I think she should hold it a bit more. And in case, of course, a lot of people want to see Natsupoi versus Ano. I do too. I think that would be a phenomenal match for the white belt. I'm looking forward to Mina Shirakawa versus Mario Batani for the IWGP Championship when that happens, because I'm still paying attention to Mario. If there's one thing from Stardom that I'm always paying attention to, it's Mario Batani. But I always pay attention to Mario basically. So whatever she's doing, I'm 100% invested in. Her versus Mina can be a really good match. It'll be a great test of Mina Shirakawa's serious wrestling skills. I think that are coming up, and I really want to see it. So I'm excited about that.
That's super cool, man. Let's paint a hypothetical scenario where someone has happened upon this, and for some reason they do not know you. I don't know how they got here. Um, I do imagine in the realm of possibility, there's at least one person where this has happened. Somehow they're listening to this right now, and they'd like to learn more about Meerkat Ultra. Uh, I would like to know. Maybe this is just for me, actually. Is there out there already a quintessential Meerkat Ultra video or some piece of content, maybe a handful, maybe a top three of some kind? Is there something you would point people to that you feel is a great representation of your style, of your interest, of Meerkat Ultra?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if someone is watching this who had no idea who I am, I would be very surprised if they made it this far. So I'm a high person. Thank you for that. But no, honestly, I have a playlist of a top five in my playlist section that's there. It's constantly rotating. Those are my top five, I would say. But they're all like quality artsy, almost serious stuff. Honestly, I'm like some of my great cute debates are very good examples. Like the third one, it went under the radar, but it's stupid. And I think it's a very good example of how stupid I can be. Very good example of my how unhinged I get. I would say in regards to my style, that one is ticks all the boxes of how dumb I can be. I think. Yeah, I would say those or like any of my Saki Kashima videos. You kind of get the idea of what I'm doing. They're all the same, so like any one of them. I think are good examples. But I'll say that or if you want someone more serious stuff, the playlist that I have on the top five, like my Miho Abe video, my Ram video, or that Tam Mina video that you mentioned, for example, or I mean my Tam Julia video that you mentioned, for example, are good examples. But no, I would say if you want the quintessential comedy, this is me being dumb. Yeah, probably the Great Q debate part three or any of my TJPW super serious videos. Those are just dumb fun, I would say. Yeah.
So just to wind things completely all the way down, do you have anything you would like to let people know about? Did you want to promote or make sure people are aware of? You feel free if you want to provide any types of links or anything like that? Yeah, it's just anything you have to say to people who've made it this far.
Yeah, well, it's interesting because it's also new to me. So I always feel like, oh, I gotta promote the Twitter, and promote the Patreon, and promote the YouTube, all that stuff. But like lately, you caught me right in the moment in my I don't care arc at the moment of content creation. So it's just like I don't know. I'm not really like I guess I can just break the perception that maybe some people might have. I think people do get the idea that the Meerkat Ultra is just a little avatar that I put up to exaggerate my passion to what it is I do, and that the real me behind me is not that insane. I would love to get that more across. I thought at first I could just live in that bit, but I can't do that. It's not authentic. So I'm not that crazy. Probably the content toned down a little bit more from being me screaming about cuteness or even sexiness, things like that. I've toned that down way down because it's people started looking at me as just some giant pervert and things like that. And it's just like I don't want to spread the misconception that a Joshi fan is just watching Joshi wrestling for the looks and the fact that they're Japanese women, things like that. I don't. I think that perception needs to break more. So yeah, so that's why Meerkat Ultra now these days is just an exaggerated, unhinged, ultra excited version of me, basically. So that's what the character is, basically. It's just that it's someone who just loves Joshi wrestling for all the things that we talked about already, but on a more extreme example, and me yelling and being more unhinged about it, like a true fan, basically. I would say. That would be the only thing I want to break. It's just that little stigma, basically. Is that my highest viewed video is always going to be that Mina Tam video where they're lusting off over each other. So I'm never going to be able to escape a wider view of that of me. But it's at the end of the day, I'm not that, and I just would like more people to know that. Yeah, but if you want, you can follow the Patreon too. I shout people out every video.
And congratulations on that, and just on your success in general. It's very impressive to see. I'm glad that someone with your leanings and with your skills and your artistry can actually find an ecosystem and continue to create and be bolstered and supported by people who are willing to listen and watch. So I've really enjoyed getting to talk to you today. Hopefully, we can, in some degree, stay in touch and discuss, pretentious artist things at some point. But that's about it. I've really enjoyed this time. I thank you for being gracious with your time, and thanks for talking to me today.
Yeah, no, this is great. Yeah, again, I've never done this something like this before, so it was a lot of fun. I would say, yeah, it's just something to do. It's something to talk about in regards to things that you do and spread a little bit more passion, I suppose. So thank you for this. It was fun.
Awesome. Yeah, and thanks everyone for listening.
Yeah, thank you.